Hello, I'm Caleb Froedge, and you're listening to Verse by Verse. Growing up in Paducah, Kentucky, I lived in a fairly safe neighborhood. During my childhood years, it was the early 90s, and I had the freedom of riding my bike basically wherever I wanted to in the neighborhood with joy and little concern. But I will say there was one particular house that always made my heart race a little faster when riding my bike. Now, in order to get to my house, which was at the end of the street with no outlet, I had to go past a property located on a sharp bend in the road, almost a 90-degree turn. This particular house on the corner had a large black dog that was always unchained in the front yard, which had no fence, and the dog took its job serious, that being to harass all the kids who rode their bike in the area. As soon as we would start pedaling around the bend, this wild beast named Oreo would come racing out of the yard with angry eyes, showing his teeth, barking loudly, and nipping at our feet as we pedaled with all our might. This, in turn, would lead us to certain strategy on our part, as we sometimes would pause before the bend in the road and map out the speed and trajectory we would want to take to somehow try to avoid the harassment. Sometimes we would try to speed past, and other times we would quietly approach the bend and then pedal hard. One thing is certain, the bend in the road was not the place to stop, lie down, and stare at the cumulus clouds. I did not feel safe there. While Oreo became a neighborhood legend that we all laughed about when we got older, the reality is that many places in the world today are genuinely unsafe. Not typically because of wild animals, though some are, but because of war, violence, crime, and national unrest. This brings us to our verse for today, Hosea 2 and verse 18. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, with the birds of the air, and with the creeping things of the ground. Bow and sword of battle I will shatter from the earth to make them lie down safely. This verse points to the millennial reign of Jesus Christ and part of the blessings that will come through the restoration of all things. Hosea 2 and verse 18 is a verse that includes prophetic duality because the restoration that God was providing to Israel at that time also reminds us of the restoration to come. In Hosea's day, Israel was suffering because of persistent rebellion against God. God's people were yielding to false religious customs and taking part in the same sinful behavior as the other nations. In Hosea 2 and verses 9 through 12, we understand that part of the punishment for these sins involved God removing his blessing from their crops and their land being overrun with wild animals. But God promised a future time of comfort, which extends to both man and beast. The threat of being attacked by wild animals will be completely removed, and also the threat of being attacked from human beings. As we are told in our verse for today, the bow and sword of battle will be shattered from the earth. Warfare will cease. Nations will no longer live in fear of attack. What will be the result? Mankind will be able to lie down safely. What a wonderful promise God has given us. A time is coming when humanity will no longer live in constant alertness and fear. The bow will be shattered, the animals will be at peace, and people everywhere will be able to lie down safely. And instead of anticipating a charging beast or a national threat, we can instead lean forward and eagerly anticipate the good news that is just around the bend.
Verse by Verse is a Life, Hope, and Truth podcast. Check out the show notes to find more free content, like videos, articles, and booklets in our Learning Center.